It's about what the students come and they offer up their lives as an offering to God, a living sacrifice. And so today, we want to also celebrate 6 other students that were students of Prairie. We call those alumni. And they're basically 3 couples for 3 awards. Now, this doesn't mean that you need to be paired up and married to one another. You could, but on our website, we actually have a record of all our distinguished alumni we've tracked since 1995. And so that's on the 2nd floor of Maxwell. And some of the people that are on there were a former NHL hockey player who gave his life to become a missionary in the Philippines. We also have a woman who had polio who was called by God to serve in the jungles. Can you imagine just trying to walk in the jungles? Or there's a lifeguard who is also a trained theologian and giving her life as a service to God in that way. So we can serve God in many different ways. And so we actually have not just the traditional missionary idea of, this is what a missionary is, this is how you serve God. But we have 3 categories. The first is lifelong Christian ministry, or Christian ministry rather. And they are the ones who, follow that traditional line, but it's a broad category as well. We also have integration of faith and professional achievement, which can be used in the business field or nursing or aviation. Basically, there's many different ways that one is awarded. And then we also have early career excellence, which is anyone who's shown this proficiency for serving the Lord, generally under 40 years of age. So we want to celebrate each and every one of them. The first one we're going to recognize today is Christian and Kristen Mogler. And we had them here on campus this summer, so we're just going to show this video of us giving the globe to them. Thank you for joining us today. We are wanting to celebrate one of our distinguished alumni together. Christian, affectionately called Mogi by his friends here at Prairie, graduated Bachelor's of Ministry in 2010, and his wife, Kristen, also graduated with Bachelor's of Ministry in 2011. And so thank you for coming, guys, for all this way from Germany. And we just wanted to, between Mark and I, we wanted to ask you guys a few questions about your various ministries that you have over there.
So it's Christian and Kristen.
Yes.
Okay. And I guess to keep us clear, you went with Mogi because your last name is Mogler.
Exactly.
And Kristen, did you concede to take Mogler as your last name?
I did.
Oh boy. Okay, so let that be the first lesson for all of us.
Was the best decision in life.
Best decision.
It's good to have you here. It's a delight to celebrate all that you're doing. Do a quick recap of what you have done since you graduated in 2010. I know you live in Germany, so I'll spring that one out on you. But what you're doing there, and then we want to dive into what you're doing right now together as a couple and each of you individually.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 10 years ago, or I guess when we graduated Prairie, there was the big decision what we should do, if we stay in Canada or if we would go and move to Germany. It was a big decision for an international couple, right? But God was just leading and directing very clearly, which we are very glad for. Like asking God, where shall we go? We just went to a conference and God just spoke very directly through the speaker, telling us, come on stage, I have a word from God for you. I send you back to Germany, back to your family to bring restoration. That was kind of a letter from heaven, kind of whoa. Though interestingly, you can still start doubting regardless how clearly God can speak. But so we knew we would move to Germany. In Germany, wondering what are we going to do. We ended up having kids.
Well, to interrupt, the one big reason was Mogi's mum had a stroke just before we got engaged. And she was alive, but paralyzed on one side and had lost her short-term memory. So that was one thing that God was stirring in our hearts before we moved, was just honor your family, honor your parents, just on a practical level. So that was part of the vision of moving back there, and we had spent 4 years or 5 years here at Prairie, but I would say that was more discipleship school in its own, that process of serving her and interacting. We actually lived together with his parents in one house. So
we won't
graduated.
unpack that right now.
Exactly, that's true.
Okay, so tell us about your kids also. You have 3, I think.
We'd have 3. They're 5, 7, and 8. 5, 7, 9.
5, 7, 9.
Yeah.
Boys, girls?
The oldest is a boy and then 2 girls. Yeah. Yeah.
And they're perfect.
Absolutely, of course.
Just like her.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Okay, things you've done.
Yeah, so we moved back. I took care of his mum for 4 years. She passed away just before COVID. I guess it was 2019. But we had kids. Mogi started his own company, became self-employed, does landscaping, which is not just landscaping. He always says he's the heart gardens of his customers. He comes into contact with people who would never enter a church or want to interact with theologians or pastors. So it's discipleship of its own. Also hiring people who are kind of needy and need a second chance at job or at life. I'm involved with a ministry called Passion over in Germany. I speak and teach at different conferences, do like church coaching with different leadership teams. So that's what we've been doing the last
How long
10,
have you
12
been
years.
involved with Passion?
We got involved there as soon as we moved to Germany, actually. I just started working for them officially now, just this past year.
And now you're one of their routine speakers.
Yeah.
Does Mogi still play the piano?
Once in a while.
I always loved your ability on the ivories. I think you're very talented on the piano, but I don't want to guilt trip you into playing again. Not especially not for us right now. And then you've got a third thing. This thing going on. What's the third thing? I think you're doing it together.
We are. That's this lighthouse project. God put it in our heart to invest into buying an old restaurant, not quite knowing why we're doing that, but that was just, we knew that's what we were supposed to do.
Yeah, this was 2021 is when we purchased the property, yeah.
And as it developed, we just saw more and more the vision, what it means and what we need it for.
So
Yeah.
it's a restaurant, pizza restaurant.
It was an Italian
The best
pizza
of
place.
all restaurants.
Pizza restaurant.
Okay, so you wanted to get out of the landscaping business.
Exactly. But I didn't want to make pizza, just wanted to eat pizza.
Yeah, good answer.
Yeah, this was 2021, before anything, before the war in Ukraine. But God just put on our heart to purchase this building. Honestly, it is still a faith adventure. We didn't know why. Restaurant on the ground floor, and then it used to be old hotel rooms on 2 levels above. Okay. So we just purchased it in faith, not knowing the plan was just to renovate it, first of all, because the whole thing is still pretty old.
It was cheap.
It was, yeah, exactly.
Or it was expensive, one way or the other.
Ish.
It's relative.
And it just stood empty kind of for half a year. And then in February 2020, once the war started, it's a long story that we won't unpack now, but basically...
The war.
Yeah, 3 weeks after the war...
Explain the war, just because we haven't used the word Ukraine yet.
Oh, right. Once Ukraine got invaded by the Russians, Germany is pretty close. There's only us and Poland in between Ukraine. And there was a huge refugee crisis, families fleeing the Ukraine, going into all different nations in Europe, but a lot into Germany, partly because there's a really good support system from the government, lots of things available. So a huge influx of refugees flooding everywhere, gymnasiums and sport halls being turned into emergency shelters and things. And God just reminded us, hey, you have this building that's empty with space. Some friends asked us about it too. Hey, you guys have this building. And it wasn't livable because it just hadn't been touched or renovated or used in 10 years before we purchased it. So long story short, within 3 weeks, we had 2 big weekends where up to, I think, 200 volunteers helped us renovate the building, donated furniture, bedding, food, baby items, wallpapering, painting, cleaning, and got the place, fixed up enough that the first families started arriving 3 weeks later after we made the decision, we're going to do this. And since then, we called it the Lighthouse Project, because that was, what do you want to say?
That was the word God put on our heart when we bought it. Just, okay, God, what are we doing with this thing, with this house? And at one point he just said, well, I want to build a lighthouse, a house of hope and refuge for those people who need it. And he invited us to partner with him. Do you want to partner with him? You don't have to, but I invite you to. And then that was the story why it's called a lighthouse. Yeah. And that's
So
exactly
how many people do you have in the building?
Right now there are about 30. There are 14 apartments available for the immigrants, but it fluctuates. Some people go back to Ukraine or move out to another place, and some other come again. So there's a lot of move. But so in total, I think we had approximately about 50 people living there so far. Let's see how it continues.
Very, very cool, eh?
That's an amazing story, and just a wonderful witness, I think, for our students here at Prairie, and that they can do similar things, just listening to God and seeing where He'll lead you, and using things that you never thought He would, right? So in giving honor to God and in recognition of your contribution to share your food with the hungry and to provide the poor wanderer with shelter, which is from Isaiah 58:7. Prairie College recognizes Christian and Kristen Mogler as the joint recipients of the 2023 Distinguished Alumni in Early Career Excellence. So congratulations. We have
Thank you very much.
a wonderful gift for you.
And I'm going to have to put my microphone down, but congratulations also personally and from all of us here on behalf of our alumni department. So Mogi and Kristen, Distinguished Alumni for Early Career Excellence. Is that what it's called?
Correct.
Yeah. So here's your little crystal ball, which is actually a globe. We don't want you to look into it for the future. We want you to look into it and see Prairie shining through the world for us.
Thank you.
Yeah, I believe there's a wheat sheaf in the bottom there, so you can be reminded of Prairie each time you look into it. So.
Thank you very much.
Right. If you look through it to the bottom, you'll see that little wheat sheaf.
Yeah.
Look through the glass, and it looks really quite distorted. And that's kind of the story of Prairie. It's kind of anyway, congratulations. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Are we on? All right. So yes, we had the honor of having Mogi and Kristen here on campus in August to do that special interview with Mark and Blair. And we also hopefully have them online on Zoom. We'll see if they'll join us. Yeah, there they are. Hi, guys. Again, congratulations for your award as Distinguished Alumni. And we're just so happy that you're here with us this morning as well. First, how are things going now that you're back in Germany and getting into routine?
Good. We loved our vacation in Canada, but it's also nice to be home and for our kids to be back in the school system and back to work.
Is the house still full, the lighthouse?
Yes. People still coming and going, but we're full yet.
We've had some family members join, other family members that already live there, one set of parents, and one other lady who's now her daughter is actually coming week. So.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, so I have one last question to ask you as you share with our students and alumni that are here this morning. What is one really compelling message or tidbit that you would love to leave with them this morning?
It's a very good question. Like the one verse that stuck out to us in this whole process of the lighthouse is Ephesians 2 verse 10. For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. It's exciting. God has
good works prepared ahead of us for us. God is so cool. And Jesus invites you to partner with him, to build his kingdom, to be the light in the darkness, to equip the saints and the church. It's fun. It's like a treasure hunt. God, what conversations do you have prepared today for me today? What good works can I do? Who can I encourage? Who can I help? To whom can I bring hope and love today? But it's kind of a life treasure hunt. So that's exciting.
And God has these good works prepared for each one of us. It's not just big things in the future once you graduate from Prairie, if you're going to start an orphanage or travel the world or who knows. It's about discovering these moments in everyday life. Just the conversations in the cafeteria, passing someone on the sidewalk, asking God, what do you have prepared for me? How can I love? How can I light? And not even typical Christian things in a ministry setting. Maybe it's good works involved with your colleagues, or inventing something, or social work, or being a parent. In all aspects of life, God just invites us to partner with him and do these good things that he has prepared for us to do.
And in line with that is the good works. The story of Peter became very real to us again. Jesus invited Peter to step out of the boat to walk on the water. But to be honest, everyone wants to walk on the water, but no one wants to step out of the boat. In order to do those good works God prepared, sometimes we need to step out of the boat. But in case you wondered, it's not possible. I haven't seen anyone that can actually walk on the water. It's naturally not possible. You will sink. And just like Peter, when he stepped out of the boat, we had to face many questions and challenges and fears, like, will I make it when I step out of the boat? Is it truly God inviting me? Am I insane? Why am I doing this actually? So there are many questions that come with it. But however, as we learned and continuously learn to face the fear and say, okay, God, I trust you, I fix my eyes on him, I step out of the boat, suddenly we experience the impossible. You walk on the water. How amazing is that? You experience how God is providing, how God is leading, how God brings the right people into the right time to do what you need to do. It doesn't mean that it's easy. At times we also noticed how we started sinking again. We just looked at the circumstances and we got scared, really scared. The challenges just came out of, help, I'm sinking. But then again, just fixing your eyes on him, realize it's possible only if you fix your eyes on him. And then you see how everything is possible.
And this step of faith out of the boat, it can be costly. For us, it was time, it was money. Our kids paid a price for it. The first few times were interesting when we visited with the families, and now they're, oh, Mom, Dad, we're bored. So this obedience is going to cost something. Discipleship is costly, but the good news is that it's so worth it. Following Jesus is worth it. The world is worth it. People that we get to serve and love on and show Jesus light to, they're worth it. So don't let the cost of obedience or the step of faith hinder you from actually taking that step and going out. So we just want to encourage you guys to ask Jesus what he has prepared for you, what the good works are that you can join him in, how you can build his kingdom right where you are right now. He's going to provide for you. He was on the water before he even called you onto the water. So he's already there. He's got provision for you. He's got the right connections for you. He's going to equip you with everything that you need in order to be obedient, even if it means taking a step onto the water into the big unknown. But the good news is that following him is worth it. And he's just so faithful and so good.
Amen.
So walking on the water, challenging, but amazing.
Yeah.
Amen. Thank you so much for sharing that. What a wonderful reminder of our daily lives of living and also taking that step of faith. So thank you. And again, recognition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mogi. Thank you, Kristen. I'm not sure which one of you is the better preacher. You're both pretty good at it. It's a delight to have sort of saluted you here today. Our next couple to be recognized are Jim and Sharon Jantz. Many of you will know them. I'm going to do that. And so it's a delight to get them. I believe they're online as well on the screen. if you'll put them on while I do a little bit of this read. Now, we have a bio that's kind of, pages long, single line. So I'm not going to read all of it, but there are parts of it that are really interesting, and I'll just try and sort of lift those points out. Jim was born in Saskatchewan, grew up in Three Hills, graduated from Prairie High School in 1960, attended the Bible school for 1 year. His passion is to help people do more with their lives by discovering and fulfilling their destiny. Jim is the author of A Rendezvous with Destiny, which is a bestseller in Canada and the U.S., selling over 50,000 copies. Jim has been a teacher. He's been a businessman. Sharon has been in the healthcare industry, and then she joined Jim in their business, which is an Amway business, selling frontline product and building a whole big organization. Jim has served on various boards. I could read different lists, but let me just say many, many years of service, both in the front line of business as well as in the governance area, business and charities. I think we'll go from that to a couple of questions. Now, they are in White Rock right now. They have 4 children, 9 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. His name is Gus, all of whom are the love of their lives. Their family, along with their faith, are their top priorities. Okay, enough from me. Let's go to you guys, Jim and Sharon. Let's ask, tell us a little bit about your business lives and sort of the things that you've done throughout your life, the interesting things that might sort of drop ideas in students' heads about where they might go.
Okay, Sharon is going to introduce the topics that we're going to talk about here. And she's been an incredible partner, and love working with her. And she is going to kind of give an introduction to how we ended up in the ministry area. But I'll let her take it from here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for this recognition and giving us this time. And Christian and Kristen, you are awesome. So inspiring. And I loved everything you said and how you live for the Lord. It's just wonderful, walking in faith and following Him. And because of thinking about what we want to share today, it just helped us to think about how our faith has been, how we've integrated our faith in our business life. In 1964, we started our business. I know that's eons ago, but it's been all these years. And after 8 years of becoming financially successful, we thought maybe we should go into full-time ministry. We had even talked about doing full-time ministry even before we were married. And 1 week after attending a special series of meetings at our church, we became very moved spiritually and felt that was our time to go into full-time ministry. But what happened is so interesting, because God showed us that in various ways that our business was our ministry. It was our mission field. We were to reach out to people, to care about them, to care for them, to share our faith in Christ and His love, and we even were to disciple them. And that all just became, just in a matter of a few months, God showed us that. And He wanted us to be involved in our business. That was our mission field. And so our business took on a whole new meaning and purpose. And opportunities open to us in many ways. So it's been fulfilling, it's been so rewarding, and all these years we've been given the privilege of sharing our faith and discipling those that came across our path. And so Jim is going to share how that all came about. So I just, may you all be blessed with the confidence of God's direction for your lives. That's what we ask God for you. And we've been blessed by, our lives have been blessed by being involved with Prairie. And so here's Jim.
Well, you've got the young and the old here today. Great to see young people involved the way you guys are. I think that's so special. and a great testimony to the students that are there and what the possibilities are. Possibilities that they never think of today. You never thought of doing the things you're doing right now when you were at school, I'm sure. You were kind of looking at each other a little bit. And that was a good thing too. But at the same time, what has developed is so exciting and so amazing. Sharon mentioned how we ended up making the business our ministry. And that happened through some crazy little twists and turns. Right after that happened, the week after we came home and we're kind of looking at each other and saying, is this the time we make the big move? And it was exciting to see what took place after that. There was a couple that called us and asked if I could sit down and have lunch with them and help them with their business. They were not in our organization, but I said, sure. So I went and had lunch with them. And after we had lunch with them, he said, you guys go to church, don't you? I said, yeah. He said, could we come? I said, could you come? Yes, indeed. And so we told them where to meet us, and we met them at church the next Sunday. And they said, can we come again? So they came again the next Sunday. And after the second time they were there, they said, we like what we're hearing, but we don't really understand it. Could we get together with you and have you explain it to us? That's like saying, is the Pope Catholic? And so we said, yes, we'd love to do that. I said, when would you like to see us? He said, this afternoon. So they came over, and we shared the gospel with them. And when we were through, they were open and willing to pray a prayer of salvation. And that was exciting for us to see that take place so quickly. And I'm not going to give more details because there's lots of details there. In fact, Sylvia, her son, her husband has passed away, and her son was into drugs and whatnot and passed away early. And we were able to go over and help them with their service of final service of celebration of life. And it was a great time. Most of the people that were there were not Christians, so we were able to slide it in there. And at the same time, her brother, who's just a neat guy, he's a lawyer, he just really clumbed down to what we had to say and to us, and so we're going to have lunch with them sometime soon. And I'm sure that they want to ask a few more questions about what they heard. Shortly after this luncheon, one of the guys called me. He was a longshoreman. And those of you who know what longshoremen are like, they're pretty rough and tumble guys. And this guy was right at the top of rough and tumble. His language was unique. And so he called me and said, would you come over? He said, I'd like to make breakfast for you. I said, okay. So I went over and he made breakfast for me, great breakfast. And so as soon as we got the food on the table, he said, what I really want to talk to you about is God. I said, okay, I can help you with that. And I was kind of surprised. That's what he wanted to talk about, because he certainly hadn't talked about that in any kind of a positive way in the past. And so he said, yeah, so tell me. So I kind of shared it with him, and he just kept saying, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. And by the time we were finished our 2-hour breakfast, he was ready to accept Christ into his life, and which was a total transforming situation for him. And it was great to see him, and I won't give you the more details than that, but it was just great to see him follow the Lord. The next thing that happened, or this is actually a while later, I was that when we were already in business, I did a breakfast meeting for a group, and after the breakfast, 2 people came up to talk to me. One of them, and I was speaking on 5 steps to success, and one of those steps was the giving principle. Giving principle is such a big thing, and those that have succeeded in business and in life have been givers, have been willing to share, as our previous speakers have shared so beautifully just a few minutes ago. So 2 guys came up. One guy came up to me and he said, could I have coffee with you? I said, I really don't have time. I've got another appointment. But I said, I'll grab a quick coffee with you. So I went to coffee with him. He said, I went to church last Sunday for the first time in years. And he said, I took my kids. And being the kind of bookie guy that I am, I said, how many stops did you have to make to get your kids? Because I knew you'd been married a few times. And he said, only 2. I said, well, that's good. And so anyway, at the end of our short conversation, I said, look, I got a Bible study. We got a Bible study at our house next Sunday night. I'll give you the address. If you want to come, you'll hear more. And so he came and he listened carefully. And afterwards, he just grabbed a cup of coffee and out the door he went. And as he went out the door, I could tell he was emotionally moved by what he'd heard. And the following month, he came back to the next meeting that we had, the next Bible study. And when we asked for people to share, he put his hand up. And he said, when I was here last Sunday, he said, for the first time, I heard the gospel. And he said, I heard it from all of you. And he said, it was so moving for me. And he said, in my own way, I accepted the message. And he said, on the way home, it was raining, and with the rain and my tears, said I had to stop a couple of times on the way home because I was so emotional about what had taken place in my life. And when he got home, the next day he called his mom. And he said, Mom, I'm coming home, right across Canada. And he said, I want to talk to Dad. He said, well, Dad's been dead for several years. He said, I know, but I still need to talk to him because there's some things I wish I'd said to him that I didn't. I want to do that. So he flew over to Eastern Canada that next weekend and went to the gravesite. And he was looking for his dad's grave, couldn't find it. And this truck pulled up and honked the horn, and it was some caretaker. And he said, who are you looking for? He said, oh, you're in the wrong place. Jump in the truck. So he jumped in the truck, took him to the other side of the gravesite, and pointed out where he was. And so he got out. So he got it, and he walked over to the gravesite, which was just a few steps. And he turned around, and the truck was gone. And he looked for it. He couldn't hear it. He didn't see it. And we all believe it was an angel that picked him up and took him over there because there was no sign of this guy. And those are the fun things that God does for us to kind of keep us going, keep our faith hot. And anyway, he came back to our Bible study the next time we had one, and he shared the story with us through tears and just very emotional and really moved the group that was there. And so it was another one of those moments that took place. And this all kind of happened because when I was in university, one day I said to the Lord, I said, if you put people in front of me that it seemed to be open to discussion about God, I will be willing to do that. I didn't know how fast it would happen. I went to the university that next morning to the education department, and I walked in the door, and there was a guy standing there leaning up on a bulletin board, and I greeted him in Low German. Now, I don't speak German very much. In fact, I heard some German and did a little bit of German when I was younger, but not fluently. And he responded, and I don't know why he did that. He responded in Low German. I said, okay, God, now where do we go? And so we went for coffee for 2.5 hours. And he shared how he was once a believer, but he left it all behind because he got involved with all kinds of stuff. But anyway, long story short, by the time we were done, he was willing to have another get together, which we did. And when we asked so many questions, some I couldn't answer, so I asked him if he was willing to talk to my father-in-law. Sharon's dad was a pastor for many years in the church we were going to. And he said, sure. So they both went, and they gave their life to the Lord, and he was chairman of our board for probably about 15 years after that. And just the work in his life was transformative, absolutely transformative. And so it was another little incident along the way. And then getting back to the business, I'll tell one more quick story. Often when I fly with people, when Sharon is with me, I kind of share with the people that are beside me, ask them some questions. And this was an interesting one. I was in Dallas, Texas. Some of you have been to Dallas, Texas airport. It's crazy. You got to take the train out to the gate. And when I got to the end of the gate, they said, the gate's been changed. So I had to take the train all the way back to the core and then all the way out to the next gate. And then when I got there, there was a young lady standing at the desk. I didn't know, waiting for me because they knew I was still, and their plane was a little late, so it was okay. And there was nobody else in there except one young lady who was also sitting up there. And I thought I was probably the last person to get on that plane. So the attendant took me to the plane and got me on board. And I was sitting right in front of the, what do they call it? The screen. And they used to have the bulkhead where the screen was right in front of you. And just barely sat down. And this young lady that was sitting there came in and sat down beside me. There was an empty seat, I thought, so one more seat. So she was talkative. She was just going a mile a minute because she had just been applied for a flight attendant with an airline and had had a good interview and blah, blah, blah. So I listened carefully. And so I said, what are you doing now? She said, oh, I work at a store selling clothes. And I said, you don't like that? She says, no, it's boring. I don't know where that's going to go. It's not for me. And so I read this book by an author who was a Christian. And I said, so what did you think about the section that he had? And so that turned it around to do something else, opened her mind. And she said, I said, what did you think about the section that he had on the spiritual part of his life? She said, I was really interested in that, but I don't know anything about it. I said, would you like to know something about it? I said, I know the man personally. I've spoken with him. He's spoken for us. And she said, I love that. So I shared the gospel with her. And she just kept asking questions. All the time just flew. We were flying for several hours and just in like a few minutes, and we were landing. And I said, you seem very interested. I said, are you willing to accept what Christ did for you on the cross 2,000 years ago? She said, I am. And so she prayed the prayer right there before we landed, which was so wonderful to see. And then we followed up with her, and Sharon sent her some books, and we got her tied into a church in Dallas. She got the job. And so that was just another one of those little incidents. And then one more quick story before I get into this is another one of the people that were involved in our business. But Sharon, this lady was in a Bible study, and Sharon was in that Bible study, and we had a Christmas deal, and they invited their husbands to come to the Christmas party. And they asked me to speak on Christmas and what it meant and all that kind of stuff. And when I was through, this one older gentleman, he was really asking a lot of questions. And so the gal that had brought them, she brought him over to me on the sofa and said, he has a lot of questions that I can't answer. So I said, you know what, we need to get together. So we got together the next Tuesday for lunch. And it was a long lunch. It was 2.5 hours. And he just had lots of questions. And by the time we were done, I said, do you understand the message of the gospel? He said, I do. And he said, do you understand it enough to accept it for yourself? He said, I do. So right there in the restaurant, he accepted Christ in his life. He went back to work, and when he walked into his office, the gals at the desk gasped as they looked at him. And he said, is there a problem? He said, yeah, you've got this light all around you. And he said, I do? He said, well, that's good. He said, I'll tell you about it later. But he said, I've got to have that happen. And he's been a great follower of the Lord. He's a great witness. In fact, I had lunch with him this week. And he's just bubbling. He's just a great guy. And he said, you know, I'm going to, I've invited myself to be a chaplain. He is 97 years old. And he's going to this singles group. He's a widower. And he said, I invited myself to be a chaplain. He said, I think I've got the job, so I'm going to be a chaplain to this group. And at 97. And he's a character, just a fantastic guy. Every once in a while, he lets his hair grow out, and he's, he'll do all kinds of things. And just super, super lovely guy. He's been our dear friend for all these many years, about 40 years. And so he was another one along the way. And then to go to our business, we had weekend seminars. Every 90 days, we had weekend seminars where we took our people to a resort and had weekend seminars. And on the Sunday of the weekend seminar, we always invited people to a church service. We said it was a devotional, a non-churchy church in a hotel. And 60% of the people that were there, at least 60%, sometimes almost 100%, came to the service and were introduced to the gospel, because that's what we did there. And so as we did that, wonderful things happened. In fact, to keep it short, the egg grew to where on a couple of occasions we had a mini revival happen. We had 450 people come to the Lord at one session, 650 at another one. That we did it the old-fashioned way, where we had them come forward and accept Christ, and it was fun to do that and to watch this happen, because we were watching it happen. The Holy Spirit does all the work. We've got a great partner.
Let me jump in here, Jim. We're going to have to move quickly. Okay. Do you have one more story you want to tell?
No, I will wrap it there. I'll just say this, that I'm excited the way Prairie is operating, And I'm thrilled with their combination of secular and throwing the scriptures in and learning the scriptures as they go. I think it's a fabulous way to minister. And Mark has been a blessing to me as we've gotten together over and over again to talk about the future of Prairie. And we're excited about that and looking forward to the things that are going to take place down the road. So thank you for inviting us. We feel honored to have this privilege. And back to you, Mark.
I want to, yeah. I hope you feel our love for you in your living room, and I look forward to being out there. I sent you an email asking for a meeting, but it was late last night, so I'm expecting, like, come on, give me your time. No, I hope that you're going to be available when I'm out in Vancouver in a couple weeks, and then I'd like to give you this little crystal ball. I do want to tell everybody in this room that I love this guy. He has been such an amazing source of wind in my sails, fuel in my tank, and not just mine, obviously, but all of ours here. He is clearly, first and foremost, an evangelist. But God puts them together, and Jim especially, in unique circumstances at various platforms and microphones, so he can be that glow of light. I love those stories about the truck driver who disappears and all of that. It's just great. This couple is something of a legend in some circles. Several years ago, I was hosting with Tim McKenzie, I think it was, sort of a gathering dinner in Langley, and the room was filling up, and I was meeting different people, and I met one of our young alumni couple and said hello, and sort of asked what they were doing, and they said they had just joined Amway, like that day or the day before, that week. And I said, oh, well, you'll be interested in meeting one of our other alumni who's coming, and almost about that minute, Jim walked in. I said, well, here he is. This is Jim Jantz. And the young couple goes, no. Yeah, Jim Jantz. No. It's like I'm dropping a name of a huge celebrity, and this young couple couldn't imagine the privilege of meeting them. So, in honor to God and in recognition of encouraging people to find and fulfill their God-given purpose, Prairie College recognizes Jim and Sharon Jantz. I want to also say this, Sharon also is a Prairie grad, as the 2023 Distinguished Alumni for their integration of Christian faith and professional achievement. Would you give them a hand?
They have been, as Nelson has been sharing with us this week. And so now we get to have the honor of both of them on our stage this morning. And so I'll just do a quick introduction as well for them. 3 months after Nelson graduated from Prairie in 1975, he and Linda Jesperson married in Washington State. A month later, they moved back here to Three Hills to serve in the men's dorm and in the infirmary. And as well as newlyweds, they had many friends and community here that helped nurture them in marriage and family, Christian growth and maturity, discipleship, and missions preparation. During their summer months, they helped on the Three Hills, or the Prairie Farm, and Nelson was pursuing a missions degree at Grace Theological Seminary. In 1982, God opened the door for Nelson and Linda to join him in ministry in the Philippines, serving with Action International Ministries, as we've heard on and off this week, who was founded by the Nichols, Doug and Margie, who are our distinguished alumni from 2013. The Reeds served in different capacities over the next 25 years, raising their 4 third culture kids, engaging with street people, admin and leadership, church business and church-based discipleship making, missions training, and advanced missions in Asia. After serving in the Philippines, the Lord opened the door for them to serve in other capacities with Action, serving as international director from 2007 to 2016, and then from 2016 as the international director for the whole organization. And then in 2016 to 2019, they served as the Africa regional director. They both helped Action's teams grow in Uganda, Malawi, Zambia, and South Africa. And these last 5 years, they've been equipping pastors in Nigeria, as we've also heard with the ministries with Phyllis and the Schools for Africa. Most of these pastor members live now in the Fulani villages, as we've heard. They say their greatest joy and delight has been spending time with God, loving and worshiping Him, studying His Word, and learning to obey it, spending time with family, friends, and God's people, making disciples and sharing the gospel. They praise God for all that He has gifted them in the initial formation, these spiritual disciplines and delights that they had here at Prairie. And so a special verse that you can look up afterwards is Titus 2:11-14 that they wanted to share with us as well. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Nelson and Linda to come on up and then have Linda share a little bit about her and her story.
Thank you. Hello. Hello. Is it on? Well, I don't think we're going to tell many stories this morning because you've heard him speak a lot this week, so we'll keep it short, I promise. God uses ordinary people, just ordinary people. He uses people just like me and you who are willing to do what He commands. God uses people that will give Him all, no matter how small your all may seem to you, because little becomes much as you place it in the Master's hand. That's a song. And I hadn't thought of that song in years, but last night when I sat down to write out a few thoughts, I guess the Lord put that song in my mind and I couldn't get it out. Words so simple, but really profound, aren't they? God uses and He chooses. The choosing for me began generations ago with God-fearing forefathers. It began to include me more directly when God put His finger on my father, a simple Alberta farm boy who in obedience left what he loved, his family and the farm, to follow the one he loved. His wholehearted obedience to God led to preparation at Prairie, and then on a journey to China, which in those days was the end of the world, end of the earth. In China, my parents met, married, and served God together. It was there they proved God faithful in service and suffering. I was born during those years, so was impacted as my siblings were, as we lived together under house arrest for 1 year, following the communist takeover in 1950. I think living and watching my parents trust God through this and many other challenges in the years that followed our return to Canada and then to the US was God's preparation for my heart and the life that He was planning for me. God gave me a strong desire to serve Him. This desire was stimulated by watching the lives and hearing the testimonies of missionaries that constantly came through our home. I saw the joy and fulfillment that God gives when we take up our cross and follow Him. We heard about that this week. So fast forward 4 years, I came and prepared at Prairie for what God had next. I knew I needed a solid foundation in the Word. Eventually met this guy after he graduated, we weren't here together, so we didn't have to gaze across the Jordan River. There really weren't pink and blue sidewalks back then. And then, after our marriage, we returned for 5 wonderful years here on staff. And we didn't want to leave, but the Lord gave us the boot. But being here this week has been wonderful, and it's reminded us of the wonderful community that God gave us in those years. We were just reminiscing last night, talking about some of the newlywed couples that were all together here, beginning our marriages and fellowshipping and praying and growing and learning together. I see some of you out there. And actually, they should be up here with us, receiving honor and commendation. They've stood with us all this year, and I know when we stand before the Lord and trust him to say, well done, that they're going to be right there with us. So thank you. You know who you are. When not taking care of children, I treasured discipling young women in the Philippines. And what a privilege it was and a joy to pour my life and my heart into them, walking, praying, studying God's word, and tackling life's issues together. Many of these women have become lifelong friends and are serving faithfully in the places where God has put them today. More recently, it's very fulfilling for us together to share what God has taught us by mentoring new missionaries who are now serving overseas. We do this mostly by Zoom because we're living in the U.S. now, but we enjoy it so much when we're also face-to-face with them. So for any of you that are hesitant and fearful here today about thinking about going overseas, possibly, and serving the Lord, maybe you wonder about raising a family in a foreign culture, and how do you do that? As a mother who raised 4 kids in an Asian culture over a 25-year period, I would not hesitate to do it again. The benefits far outweighed anything difficult or negative. It was not always easy, but it was a wonderful experience for all of us. And we know that our children are better today for it. And they've made friends of the nations, and their worldview is huge. We are so humbled today to be here. We are ordinary people to whom God, for some reason, has given the great privilege to serve him. He has done great things with the little that we have given him, and he has used it as we've placed it in his hands. Thank you.
See, she should have been the speaker.
I stick with my notes.
Whew. Oh, my. Isn't she wonderful? Linda and I count it a great privilege and honor to be recognized as distinguished alumni. Thank you, dear brother, and President Mark Maxwell, and all those that were on the selection committee that extended to us this amazing honor. Thank you. We are deeply touched. As Lynn and I reflect on the almost 5 decades of ministry together, we give glory to God for calling us, sending us, and enabling us by his Spirit to minister to people, which started here at Prairie, all those poor dorm guys that we got to practice with the first 5 years. Yeah, And then he sent us to the Philippines for 25 years. And then beyond. Ministering to people all over the world. And as we reflect on this great privilege, we capture all of these experiences in one verse in 3 John, verse 4. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children are walking in the truth. We have no greater joy than to hear that our children are walking in the truth. This verse is precious and a special meaning to both Linda and me because we have a dozen grandchildren now. And we are always excited to hear stories on how our grandkids are walking with Jesus. 4 of them in the Philippines. Another 4 were in Indonesia for 7 years and 4 in the U.S. But that verse has even taken on greater significance to us because, as Linda mentioned, we have had the joy of discipling precious believers in the Philippines, and God was drawing different leaders and believers from other parts of Asia and bringing them to study there. And we had the wonderful opportunities to build relationship and begin to disciple them. They've gone back to their lands. So now these children, because several of them call us Papa and Mama, have returned to their lands to make disciples, plant churches, train pastors, share the gospel with the unreached and frontier peoples in Nepal, India, Cambodia, Bangladesh, China, and other places. Ordinary people. Put your hand in the man's hand, and he'll give you opportunity to do things you would never imagine. And what's so amazing about that is thank you, Jim, wherever he went, or if you're still listening, and Sharon. Wasn't that amazing? How easy. Someone who comes in and says, tell me something about the Lord. I mean, it just blows your mind. God does that. Presently, we have the joy of doing this in Nigeria and back home in our city with immigrants and refugees that have come into our city. Yes, we have no greater joy than to get prayer letters and WhatsApp updates telling us what's going on, that these disciples and people that they're leading are walking in the truth, sharing the gospel, standing firm, and making next generation disciples. Friends, I want to especially honor my wife today. We are still pressing on. After almost 5 decades, we're still pressing on, believing God, and you heard it this week, give me that mountain. It may be kind of a hill, but give it to us, Lord. We're out there this morning. There's 10 of us out there watching the sun come up. Jim and Sharon, Christian and Kristen, that was so very good. You know what I heard this morning? I learned a new word recently. We were talking about being co-vocational. And I hadn't heard that. Usually it's bivocational. But businesses, missions, or just wherever God sends you, whether it be the medical field, whether it be business, I'm preaching now, wherever God sends you, whatever he gives you to do, to farm, till the land. Hope that's not my phone. Go at it co-vocationally. God just opening so many opportunities along the way. So I just really appreciated Jim and Sharon's and Kristen and Christine's message this morning. Their testimonies, amazing. I love to be doing what they're doing. We can only be The only way that we can continue to do what we're doing is because of her steadfast and faithfulness to stand by my side as I go do crazy stuff. Thank you, my love. You are God's amazing, precious gift, good gift to me. And that brings me to, we were supposed to give some advice in this. As many of you are still asking the Lord to show you your life partner someday soon, huh? Shut up, Martin. He found his wife here. Yeah, okay. Here's some advice. Our loving Heavenly Father delights in giving His children good and excellent gifts. Did you hear that? Of course, you know that. Dear ones, I exhort you again, give God all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your body. So that God, in His time, can give you as a good gift to that special person that He's preparing right now for you. Be a good gift. Finishing with Linda's theme, we're just ordinary people, but we continue to serve, and we have been serving an extraordinary God, an absolutely extraordinary God these 48 years. To God be the glory. And thank you again, Prairie family. Oh, we love you. Thank you again, dear friends, for so graciously receiving us. God bless you.
Thank you so much for sharing with us. And again, congratulations. And we just want to honor you as our Christian Lifelong Ministry recipients. So, congratulations. And Mark has a beautiful globe to hand off to you. Right, so what we're awarding them for is in recognition of their obedience to their calls into missional leadership around the world. Prairie College recognizes them, Nelson and Linda Reed, as the 2023 Distinguished Alumni for Lifelong Christian Ministry.
God bless you all. Have a great day.
Alum